Recognize the member for Fredericton-Grand Lake and leader of his party.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to stand here today and offer my thoughts on the 2022-2023 budget presented in this chamber just a few days ago. But before I dive into the budget, I'd like to start by acknowledging my family that have continued to support me throughout my political endeavours and has brought me to this honourable chamber. As everyone in this House will recognize, being elected to office can be very time-consuming and at times emotionally draining. Even when we get time with our friends and family, we're often interrupted by day-to-day tasks that are before us. This role is anything but a 9-to-5. Its demands can be taxing, especially on our loved ones. To Amanda, Silas, Chrisley, and Felicity, I want to say how much I appreciate the support and love each of you continue to give. Madam Speaker, I love being an MLA and working hard to make people's lives a little bit better. We do not win every battle. We certainly cannot solve all the world's problems, but there's nothing more fulfilling and invigorating than being able to help someone in their time of need or to help provide a solution to a problem that would otherwise go unresolved. To my dedicated office staff, you are the spokes within the wheel that keeps me moving forward and allows me to do the best I can in delivering for the people that elected me, and for that, I'm grateful. I'd also like to take a brief moment and recognize the passion and seemingly limitless energy that my colleague, Michelle Conroy, puts into her riding of Miramichi. Her and her team work tirelessly to help her constituents in many aspects, including going above and beyond her role as an MLA in being a voice and offering practical help to the downtrodden, those struggling with addictions, and the homeless in the Miramichi area. Last but certainly not least, I want to express my gratitude to the people of my riding of Fredericton-Grand Lake. It's obvious that I could not have the honour of doing what I do without the support of my own constituents. I am truly humbled by your faith and your trust in me as your representative. Madam Speaker, there are a few occasions that governments are able to provide fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers while also ensuring services offered are improved. I've always been a strong advocate of small government, low taxes, and balanced books. Every decision made with a presented budget does not only affect what the public receives today, but it also affects what our children and grandchildren will receive in the years to come. That's why I have fought hard against continued deficits that plunge the next generation further into debt and erodes future governments' ability to be able to provide adequate services to the taxpayer. Annual deficits add to a ballooning debt that in turn rob citizens of being able to have fair and reasonable taxes and services from the provincial government. Madam Speaker, despite the term free that we often hear when it comes to provincial services and programs, the reality is nothing is truly free. As the globe reels with inflation, war, rising gas and food prices, we as a tiny province in this big world must determine what's important for us here in New Brunswick. If COVID has taught us nothing, it has certainly highlighted the importance for the need of an agile and robust healthcare system. These last 2 years have made it abundantly clear how fragile and broken our current system truly is. Now, I know we are not alone in that. Every province from BC to Newfoundland has had to grapple with staffing issues in their hospitals. Whether it's nursing shortages, doctor shortages, long wait times, etc., this is a national problem that every Canadian has recognized, including us here in New Brunswick. That is why I was very pleased to see that our health care budget will receive the largest increase since 2008. I want to encourage the Minister of Health and the health authorities to ensure that every dollar has the best return of investment possible, because increased budgets alone will not provide the healthcare system New Brunswickers have come to expect and deserve. And despite the national competition, we must make nurse and doctor recruitment front and centre. We must have a system that is truly connected. We must tear down any silos of independence that currently exist in our healthcare system. We must modernize our approach to healthcare with services like virtual care. You know, I remember being in a committee not too long ago and getting some actual numbers, and I was flabbergasted to learn that our current healthcare system today still relies on outdated technology like fax machines, literally in the thousands. Madam Speaker, these boat anchors continue to weigh down our system. This isn't 1964, and we must move forward to a modern system that is truly interconnected, where patient, doctor, pharmacist, and all others involved in healthcare all work together seamlessly to provide the best care possible. Access to primary care, surgery, and mental health services are a few critical areas that deserve the utmost attention. I'm hopeful that this large increase in budget, coupled with innovative and united thinking, can revitalize healthcare here in New Brunswick. Madam Speaker, it's not lost on anyone that this province, while again not alone or unique, is facing a serious housing crisis. Just a few years ago, it was easy to find or buy or rent in the village that I reside in. Today, options are becoming less available, and the ones that are available are out of reach for a lot of families. Homes that just 5 or 6 years ago would sell for $100,000 in rural New Brunswick are now going for $180,000 or higher. I speak with real estate agents that tell me they are selling properties virtually sight unseen and above asking price. And while this may be very good for the economy and very good for bringing new people into the province, it inevitably creates a huge disruption, causing high demand and low supply. That's why I have pushed very hard for several years to see a reduction of the double tax, coupled with reasonable rent controls that ensure the tax reduction savings makes its way to tenants in lower rent prices and to create more stable housing. I was incredibly disappointed when government backed off the double tax reduction just a few years ago. However, I am very pleased that over the next 3 years, this double tax will be reduced by 50%. I was also encouraged to see that a 15% reduction in other residential property taxes was also included. I'm not naive to the fact that these reductions are not a magic bullet to inflation and high assessments, but I do believe it's certainly a step in the right direction to ease the burden of renters and homeowners alike. Madam Speaker, policing in rural areas have become an area of great concern. Community policing has become almost non-existent due to lack of boots on the ground. I hear from mayors and councillors all across this province that have raised the alarm when it comes to long response times in emergency situations. I'm hopeful that the increase of $3.3 million allocated to fight drug crime will also result in overall better response times. I also believe government must look at other ways to provide policing services, whether that means a hybrid model, including a provincial police force, or expanding urban police services to rural areas, or a combination of both with additional measures. But it will take outside-the-box thinking to see this service improve for our rural residents. Madam Speaker, as inflation continues to rise, it's always the most vulnerable that suffer the most. Anyone who does regular grocery shopping can attest to the large increases to basic things like fruits and vegetables, milk, meat, and the list goes on. It is incredibly worrisome that the barbaric invasion by Putin into Ukraine will inevitably see the cost of wheat explode in Middle Eastern countries. The fact remains that the world is connected like no other time in history, and what happens halfway around the world is sure to impact us here at home. That is why I want to continue to urge government to provide programs and incentives for families and households to do things like put in gardens and greenhouses to help offset some of the impact of food prices that are sure to rise. Whether you live in rural New Brunswick or an urban area, there are always new and creative ways to grow food that's becoming more simple and less labor-intensive. With an information drive and a little incentive from government, it could allow people to become just a little more independent and less reliant on the global food supply chain. I was disappointed that despite the supply chain shortages we have already witnessed here at home, that there's no doubt on our doorstep problems coming with food security and supply chains, and I was hoping to see a little more in the budget in relation to agriculture and a localized approach to food security. Madam Speaker, everyone listening to my voice today can understand the frustration when it comes to our roads. I drive from Minto into the legislature on a regular basis, and I can say for a few parts of it, you don't want to try to take a sip of your hot coffee. Again, I know my area of Fredericton Grand Lake certainly isn't alone. I understand the challenge of maintaining the large network of asphalt that is the third largest in the country per capita. But bad roads isn't just an inconvenience, it's more importantly a safety issue. I was pleased to see an increase of $4 million to brush cutting and an additional $3 million for bridge repairs. And I'm hopeful that these increases coincide with much-needed repairs to our network of roads and bridges overall. You know, Madam Speaker, before this budget was introduced, I made a comment that with the windfall government received from general revenue growth, as well as federal transfers, that there was indeed an opportunity for a win-win situation with this budget. To see an increase across several departments, as well as a reduction of taxes, to see increases to allow the most vulnerable keep a little more money in their pocket, while also running a surplus, always makes for a good budget. I look forward to digging deeper into the details of how this increased money will be used and what outcomes can be anticipated. Madam Speaker, I believe New Brunswick is poised for success. And if government does it right, I believe that success can be increased and exemplified across the nation to make New Brunswick to show the nation what New Brunswick truly is and the people that love it and why they love it. I look forward to more questions and more details in relation to the budget as we continue in this House together. Thank you, Madam Speaker.